Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. I'm gonna make this quick because I know Ed is streaming right now, and Art's gonna start streaming if he hasn't already. Um, so just quick. You know, uh, okay. So how we're gonna address this? This is specifically going to be about calling the end of the Black Manosphere, calling it the Winosphere, and we're specifically speaking about a Mr. Jason Black, the Black Authority. Also, who Jason Black has two channels. He has the Black Authority on YouTube. He also has the business channel, where he speaks about power dynamics in relationships. So Mr. Jason Black has deemed the end of the Black Manosphere, or as he affectionately calls it, the Winosphere, because of, well, he was trying to get us up out of here anyway, but definitely after the just Pearly Things debacle, and yes, Mr. Z is actually early today, so we're not even starting on time. We're starting early, by a few minutes. So because I just want to get this out while I still have the time and the chance. So why this is important is, number one, there's a lot of things that go unaddressed from Jason Black, and I expect nothing different from kind of a black hyper capitalist kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps type of brother. And it's this, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Does Jason believe that racism exists? Definitely. Does he believe in systemic oppression? Definitely. And even with that, it's a alpha your way through it type of sentiment and mentality that comes from that brother, right? And and a whole lot of respectability politics. Oh my God, right? So don't forget, Jason was one of these. The problem is we spend our money in Jordan on in weaves type thing, right? And yes, when you guys hear me referring to how Yvette and Tone Talks came in the door, and a whole lot of people stopped using that type of language, Jason is one of them. That's why you don't hear him really say that type of stuff no more. Y'all go back to his stuff from like 2014, 2015, and tell me there's different, right? Tell me anything different, right? So we have to be honest that was Mr. Jason Black back then. And I understand with new information come new knowledge, and you have to readjust. But he never outright said, yeah, oh, okay. Well, I thought because I saw a couple of people in the hood with different J's every other day, right, that I thought that this was a thing, and it was like this kind of thing that we all go to in the black community of the reason why we don't got no money is because we spending our money on dumb stuff. I forgot that we were black and poor, and the reason we don't got no money is because we don't got no money. Right? Now, could black people's spending habits be better? Yeah, they could be. But is that the reason why black people are poor? No. Also the ADOS movement, right? So, people made a big hoopla about ADOS. Tariq out of his mouth said, and I watched it with my own two eyes. This is not somebody that's telling me this. This wasn't even on somebody else's channel. This was Tariq streaming himself on his phone, and he pretty much made fun of Tone for not being charismatic enough, and that's why Tone couldn't be in it, while he was calling him all type of mush mouth, right? And Tone and Jason Black, I'm sorry, not Tone, I'm sorry, Tariq. If I said Tone earlier, I'm sorry. Tariq and so Tariq was the one calling Tone Talks all type of mush mouth and all type of not charismatic. Number one. And this is why he couldn't be leader of this particular ADOS movement. Number one. Number two, Jason Black and Tariq poked fun at Yvette's sexuality. We got to call a thing a thing. So for this brother to now pretty much say it's the death of the Black Manosphere, as opposed to what you're doing, that same old dead tired trope. Well, if y'all just go to the gym and get swole and then make a whole lot of money, then the women won't have a choice but to be down with our program. You mean like they're getting down with everybody else? Wait, they getting down with Asian men's program, right? Oh, nope. White men's program, yeah. No, they use them as a weapon against black men rhetorically, but they ain't trying to get down with their program neither. Huh. You mean how they get with well-to-do men and still divorce them in 10, 15 years, right? Huh. Until we acknowledge that the system is like this rigged and women are free and they get to do what it comes with their autonomy and their freedom and their education and their you know the reason why there's a black manosphere is because brothers, and remember, Jason was on, and I'm not chastising Jason too much as in to say like brother, when we just when you hear many brothers here speak, we're describing brothers like you that should have been married over a decade ago. But sure, if it's not my way, there's no way type thing, and then trying to hang us on the just pearly things, right? The king of the hill thing, right? Out of your own mouth, Jason, your mouth. I heard it. You sided with Tariq because it couldn't be Vet and Tone for the ADOS thing. Out of your mouth. Right? But I'm bringing all of that up to now tie this into a brother that you would think would have the foresight, but not really, right? And I think my gripe with Jason is for a person that, you know, I first met Jason on Tommy's show. Jason, was chill with Tommy. Um, Him and Tommy got into it a couple times, but he he gave Tommy a chance, and Tommy himself was like, I'm raised by a single mom, and sometimes and Jason was the disciplined adult in the room. And for those of us that gravitated to Jason, it's because he was the consummate disciplined adult in the room. And as time has progressed, Jason has become more and more megalomaniac, right? It's become more and more antics. It's become more, and the conversation about men and women, particularly black men and black women, unless you're going to rip away any type of state help, um, kick them out of their jobs, um, pretty much give them no outlet but to be barefoot and pregnant, you're not going to get the same type of women that many of these brothers and just men in general are speaking about. And because of that, you get SYSBM and you get passport bros. Mr. Z and other black men in the black manosphere are about black men doing better for themselves. Black men doing better for yourself for sake of you. And by extension, for sake of the black community. But that is not how Mr. Black speaks. He speaks as if it's a bunch of whining men worshiping at the altar of white women, right? A bunch of black men whining, trying to rub elbows with white men and chase after white women, right? As if there's not like diversity in the black manosphere, as if the brothers that are going SYSBM, going passport bros, aren't going to some of the darker places on the planet, right? It's not, it's a bit disingenuous. And the shot to the bow is me saying that was Jason shooting at the black manosphere. That's not me shooting at Jason. I don't think I have the ability to do that, to be frank. What I am saying is, this whole Well, you deserve what you get. You ain't an Uber millionaire. See, if you was an Uber millionaire, then if you was a millionaire, then you would be better with the women. Jason, brother, you're not married. You don't have any children. Clearly, when I bring that up, I want y'all to understand. This is not me trying to make fun of Jason. Once again, kind of out of my depth there. It's me saying, brother, if what you're advocating for worked, then you would be married with children. Unless you are, and you've been hiding that from us on the internet, right? Unless you are, and then you've been hiding it from us on the internet. Okay, maybe, right? But there's this real like king of the hill, no true Scotsman thing, like that Jason kind of plays, and then it. And like this idea that you're gonna bury the black manosphere with just pearly things, beating us over the head with just pearly things. It's not gonna happen. And I don't know what is this thing with Jason Black and Tariq Nasheed just calling something dead from like the first second. Like, I got an issue with this. Me and these people are going back and forth. Okay, that movement's dead. That's dead. This is dead. These people are dead. What? Right? You know, there's a reason why these things blew up the way they did. Why the manosphere, the black manosphere in specific, is where it is. The environment is not producing the particular type of women that men want to marry, right? As evidenced by, from what we know, you, Mr. Jason. As evidenced by you. And I think it's, you know, you look at us as, like I said, the winosphere, or as you've called us, the winosphere. When we're describing, yes, black men all the way from the brothers that can't really, rub two pennies together, all the way to the well-to-do brothers. And I was listening to Culture Clinician on Obsidian channel, and it's like, you know, you really don't know, or you don't. I don't want to say you don't know, because I think you listen in from the clouds, right? I don't think you fully have an appreciation of how diverse this space is. The PhDs, the brothers that are successful and that's actually been boots on the ground with different black people, different movements, different organizations, been married for 20, 30 years, children in college, children doing well for themselves. We got people that are hard millionaires, probably are just as successful as you, if not more. We got people that's been making six figures since the 80s in this space. Right? So to dismiss this space as a bunch of whiners who couldn't get anybody to lay up with, and they're just chasing after white women. I mean, these type of words are trigger words for black people. We got to be honest, right? And so oftentimes, particularly for black women, all you got to say is, "Oh, these black men worship white women," and then that's the beginning and the end of the conversation. That's all they need to hear, right? Meanwhile, I would argue most of the black men in the black manosphere, whether conservative or more progressive, want to be with black women. Do not find just pearly things anywhere appealing physically or anything like that. But it's so easy to dismiss what's going on here because we don't move exactly the way you move. And not everybody over here is trying to be on some six-figure thing because, well, you and you. I think I have to say this again. I can't tell you what it is, but I could tell you what it looked like. Which I'm stealing that phrase from Jeff Brown, right? And yes, I know Jeff Brown is down with Jason Black, and he calls in all the time, right? It looks like what we tell black people when something tragic happens. It looks like what we tell black men, right? Is that, hey, you get what you get because you ain't a baller. Because you don't got no money like that, you get what you get. The women being disrespectful, a-holes, whatever, you get what you get. Never mind that they kind of do that with the dudes with some money too. Don't pay attention to that part. Not as much as you, but yeah, they still do it. Because it's a cultural thing. Right? That's the energy that oftentimes, like, it. That's the energy that at least Mr. Z sees. I don't know about everyone else, and I'm being very careful and deliberate with my words, very intentional with my words. That's the energy that I see. You get what you get because you ain't moving the way I told you to move. Don't you get it? You're not moving the way I told you to move. So you get what you get. Right? Which is the same energy with the women. Right? For someone that speaks about power dynamics all the time, do we not see how the state is backing the women because the women are the ones that spend money? Right? They're the larger they're the larger percentage of the population. They hold the purse strings both in relationship and when they're single. What they said, women decide what's being bought by 70%, right? That's why Gillette had no problem disrespecting men because they knew it was their wives that was buying the products anyway. And Big Kev says, and thank you, Big Kev. Big Kev says, pro-blacks and feminists are mad that their ideologies are losing credibility with young men. Right? And there's something to be said about that. What did we think was going to be the end of telling men, by the way, the reason why you're going through what you're going through is because you're not alpha enough. See, Negro, if you would just pull yourself up by your bootstrap and make more money, right? And be built like Adonis, be built like goddamn Hercules. Oh, I'm sorry, they're white, they're Greek. I need to be built like who? Right? Mike Tyson in the early 90s, right? Be built like LeBron. If you would just do these things, then the women wouldn't have a choice. First of all, that like takes away their agency. They definitely got a choice, clearly. But it is a gaslighting tactic, and it dismisses what these men are really going through. And that's why we find ourselves in this space. And the young men are pushing back because they're tired of being lectured down to, both by your kind of Jordan Peterson before he made the switcheroo. Y'all remember when Hafiz first spoke to Jordan Peterson about what the young men are saying? He told you the women were right. Don't forget. Don't think that. Don't only look at the switcheroo he's doing now. Remember what he said to Hafiz. That's what Jordan Peterson was on, right? And I know I'm using Jordan Peterson, but a whole lot of black men were on that same tip. Maybe not Jason in particular, but a whole lot of black men were on that same thing. And then on the other end are the feminists. Well, I guess these guys could be considered feminists too. But on the other end are the 10 toes down, stomp down feminists. And both sides are telling you, yeah, you're just lacking. Right? And your sons are pushing back. Your sons are over it. And everybody's trying to get the men back online, back on in the system. Not for the benefit of the men, by the way. Some, not even for the benefit of the women, for the benefit of the system. And like I said, I will continue to listen to Jason Black because I think when Jason Black is right, he's right. And when he's on, he's on. But Jason Black going against the entire manosphere and pretty much deeming the black manosphere dead. No. No. And we will see. Let's see if the black manosphere numbers grow in the next year or two, or if it's just a little fad that came and went in the next year or two. Right? Lasted about a decade, came and went, didn't do much. Right? Notable figures: Sarge Willie Pete, Angry Man, Obsidian, O'Shea, Kevin Samuels, BGS, a couple of others. And that's going to be on the obituary of the black manosphere. Let's see. Right? Let's see. Right? But for Jason to call this a dead space, oh, excuse me, I said dead space. This space dead because we don't move the way he thinks we should move. Right? I'm not here to disparage Jason necessarily, but this kind of megalomaniac becoming more and more ornery as he gets older, and I'm not going that off of age as much as I think being exhausted, being kind of increasingly enraged that it doesn't maybe seem like you're having the effect that you wish you did, right? You know, I think it's a growing frustration. I think it's just frustration that we see coming from Jason Black, right? And like anybody could get it. anybody can get that frustration directed towards them, or any movement or any group, right? And brothers, and Stuart D. Knight, author, says builds better men is the bottom line, and I understand that. But I'm not speaking about Jason Black so much on the Black Authority side, but on the business side, his business channel, and him speaking about the power dynamics between black men and black women, in particular, right? The issue is that you're always going to have average, and women have an issue with the average in the first place. That's what continuously goes unaddressed. Average could be on the moon. The average could be the astronaut. They will have contempt. We have gotten to the place where intimacy, in particular, and kind of we're in the place now where these things are no longer necessities as much as luxuries. This kind of play between men and women, and that's why you see in advanced societies, and when I really mean advanced economies, you see this push of women to have disdain for men, particularly average men, and it doesn't matter where the bar of average is. So when you say build better men, you could continue building better men until the cows come home. You could continue building better men. They have contempt for average. And I'm not about telling women what to do when it comes to the way what they find attractive or who they find attractive. But I'm also not about telling men to kill themselves for women's delusion, right? And the brother Stuart D. Knight, author, says, here's the key to that. A man on his purpose that has achieved won't tolerate the presence of trash women. What about when the system produces these particular women? Because I'm kind of against calling women trash and whatnot. That's, call it the lefty in me. But um, what about when the system encourages this? Number one, but also number two, the state backs them, right? And number three, you're speaking on an individual one-to-one level. We're talking about a whole country of 330 some odd million people, right? That's what I'm saying. And y'all give me a second. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat, right? And y'all talk amongst yourselves. Give me a second, everyone. Okay, we're back for a little bit. Okay. And excuse my background, kind of walking right now. But and I hope you guys can hear me well. Um, I think that's really my pushback to Jason is, brother, this if we're only going to be talking about, and this is my kind of, well, this goes back with the pushback. If we're speaking about only the elite, it should be only be the elite that procreate. It should be only the elite that get to choose women. It should be only of the elite. If we're going back to eugenics, or if we're going back to the best stock, that type of language, if we're going back to that, then we just think we need to come out and say, hey, you poor dudes, um, you you poor dudes, you men that we deem as lesser men, um, yeah, we're just gonna take all the women off the table. We want to institute back polygamy. We will be marrying women, those of us with enough money and enough status. Um, and I guess for those other men that are like physical specimens, we are going to take all the women off the table, and we'll be marrying women at 1 to 20, right? One of us to 20 of them, right? And we will have harems of women, and the rest of you, I mean, get it how you live. I guess y'all will engage in same-sex relationships, and and yeah. I mean, if that's what we're saying, then just might as well come out and say it. If we're for Darwinism, we might as well just come out and say it, right? And I think that's what I'm saying. If we're for Darwinism, we might as well just come out and say it. Don't let the divestors be the only ones to say it, right? If we're for eugenics, let's not let the divestors be the only one to say it, right? Oh boy. So I just walked over here for no reason. All right, that's great to know, right? And y'all give me a second. I have to take the stairs. All right, everybody, just bear with me. Give me a second. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. All right, we're back for a second. We are back. We are back. All right. So yeah. I think that's my thing. There's a black manosphere for a reason, right? If black men thought that the Jason Black way of doing things was the best way of doing things, then there would not be a black manosphere, because Jason Black has been on the internet for some time now, and the black manosphere definitely wouldn't have the traction it has now, right? Now that's definitely true. The black manosphere would definitely not have the traction it has now if young men truly believed in what Jason Black is saying. And so, you could call it the winosphere to kind of minimize it, but I don't know, right? Is it the winosphere, or you just have certain ideological differences with this space, and so you have to call it something? And I would argue that's what it is. I would argue that. This space won't disappear on some, just make for the men as being weaker than and soft, and you always get people to round up saying these guys are worshiping at the altar of white women, right? And that'll definitely get them. That'll definitely teach them, right? And I don't know, right? I don't know, you know. And so how is this supposed to work? We follow Jason's lead. Okay, let's work this out. So we follow Jason's lead, and a good 50% of us get into some type of IT work. The rest of us who may not be so inclined do what? Drive trucks or get into some super high paid um, blue collar work, possibly. Um, and then black women in the black community have no choice but to pick amongst us, and we sell out to the sunset, beginning end. You know, the beginning end is just it's just gonna be, you follow Jason's black, template, and in beginning, everything works out swell, absolutely swell, right? And Stuart D. Knight, author, says, when you've spoken on Divestors, Mr. Z, how often have you related your listeners why they use the rhetoric they use? What do you mean by that? Right? That's a real question. I'm not trying to pretend, like I don't understand. I truly, a little bit more context, please, or details. Maybe I'm lost. No, I'm definitely lost. It's not really Jason's method. It's the method of attaining manhood through trials and conquests. Excuse me. You know, no, there's something to be said about that, right? Oh, definitely. There's something to be said about that, right? And through trials and conquests, there is a dearth of coming to age rituals and trial by fire and whatnot for young men. And we've spoken about this ad nauseum in the black community. Excuse me, the black, not so much the black, as much the black community, but particularly um, the black manosphere. And for those who frequent these spaces, they know this. So when you say that, you know, this is a way that we build better men, are you assuming that we haven't had these conversations already? I mean, I guess my question to you is like, what am I saying that you're disagreeing with? To Mr. Stuart D. Knight, right? Why are divestors speaking so ill of black men? Because they're not white men. And it's not, they use the rhetoric of white men's positionality as a rhetorical weapon, but it's really not that. It's simply because they're not white men. I mean, they're not white women, right? It's that simple. And there's nothing black men can do right now to fix that because they will always have a problem with this. Unless, of course, wait, Africa don't have no nukes. Well, there's that. Okay. Well, nah. White guys got so many guns in the U.S. Well, there's that too. Huh. Well, the bank. Oh, yeah, the banking system. There's that. Huh. Right. So, you know, and the Beehive says these dudes never talk about doing these things to build a community. It's always just to build up a woman that claims she can do it by herself. See that I don't know if Jason's doing that. I won't put that on Mr. Black. I won't say that. I don't think he's actually saying that, right? From what I gather from Jason, it's if we build enough competent um masters of the universe men, then that would be beneficial for the black community. I agree with that. And the black women won't have a choice but to get down with your program because I mean, that's the men, right? And my pushback to that is that no, they have a problem with average anyway. That would become the new average. And then they'll just have a problem with that, right? You don't actually ever get them on your team because they have a problem with average. Not to mention they've tasted what I'm gonna say freedom in air quotes, what freedom in air quotes looks like. And they're not going back. Not even for security. They want both. As evidenced by the conversation I had with Mr. FD Signifier. And I think that's where it gets a little fuzzy for not just Jason Black, because I don't think Jason Black is dumb. Like clearly, right? Like that's not even an allegation I would ever. I'm just like, how is this supposed to work? Because it's about okay, you can punish them, but like the system is built off of protecting them in that way, right? So are we gonna then get our money to advocate for like stripping these social programs that then allow for women to act the way they do? You think they want to give up like this air quotes freedom? Like I said it before, like the women are struggling now and they're not even coming up off of it, right? So that's what I'm saying. So when Jason speaks about building yourself for yourself, right? Um, and your future progeny, I'm all with that. I'm 100% in agreement with him on that one. But once we start getting into the conversation of like women and building supermen, and then the women won't have a choice, I'm like, they've tasted this kind of like I said, freedom, air quotes freedom, with the state kind of minimizing the consequences or shielding them from certain type of consequences or not letting them starve because they made the wrong decision, right? And so like not ending up with the baller dude or the best man for you, not even just a baller dude, not ending up with the best man for you, knowing that he's the best man for you, they can still be okay-ish, right? And I think what I'm saying when we have this larger conversation of the black community, black men, black women in their conflict, right? In their disagreement, to throw just pearly things and try to bash black men with that is disingenuous because most black men aren't chasing after white women in this space, right? And the reason I would argue, I'm not, at least for Mr. Z, I didn't even know about this Just Pearly Things interview. And that speaks to how many of us weren't actually paying attention to Just Pearly Things. right? I have subscribers now. My channel is super tiny. Nobody sent me this a clip of this, right? It shows you just how much we weren't actually paying attention to just Pearly Things. Now, do I know who Nick Fuentes is? Yes. Have I known who Nick Fuentes is? Yes. Right? Had I seen the video or even seen the title or the thumbnail, or one of my subscribers sent me this through email, would I have done a review of it? Of course. Right? But that speaks to how much of us were not actually paying attention. So yes, there might have been some people in and around the Black manosphere that saw this, and they didn't think it was a big deal or whatever, so they just let it slide. Of course that was a thing. But on the other side is the people that didn't even know this video existed for the past 2 weeks because they don't follow Just Pearly Things like that. Right? And I think attempting to paint this with a broad brush, that statement even doesn't cover what I'm attempting to say. Jason Black tried to kill this space because it's associated for him. I would see. I don't even want to put words in his mouth. I'm not even going to say that. I just think that Jason has a problem with people not moving the way he thinks they should move. Right? I think that's just the best way to say it. Right? I think he really has a problem with people not moving the way he thinks they should move. Right? And the impact, you have manosphere talking points leaking up to researchers. We bring up Richard Reeves because Richard Reeves is not a no one. Scott Galloway is not a no one. Right? And they're ringing the alarm of the plight of men and how it's going to affect overall society. And Richard Reeves in particular is using somewhat what's going on with Black men to warn the society, like, hey, we better fix this. Right? And to ignore that, see, I think that speaks to something. To ignore it, I think that speaks to something. To play it down, I think that speaks to something. Right? So I'm not gonna belabor it too much. I think I'm gonna wait and come back a little bit with more coherent thoughts. Definitely with points that I want to hit. But like I said, I'm going to continue to listen to Jason, especially when he covers something I think is interesting. I think he has a place, obviously, in the Black community. Clearly, like, I'm not trying to say for us to get Jason Black out of here. I don't think it's even possible, right? But with that, Jason Black doesn't even. I would say this. I don't know how much he understands that even his presence is why we have a Black manosphere, right? His presence is much of why we have a Black manosphere. That's why I brought up. By the way, that's why I brought up the Jordans and Weave thing earlier, and the ADOS thing, because Jason Black's presence and that the reason why we're not where we need to be is because the Jordans thing was a slight against the men, the Weave thing was a slight against the women. But this always, well, we moving wrong. That's why. And then we get new information that says, yeah, not, yeah, maybe a few people, but that's not a thing. The rhetoric was good though. And I think that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is not, and notice I never defended just pearly things. As a matter of fact, I made a video about this. I've made multiple videos about black people and these conversations interacting with white people, particularly white men, right? But even white people with the when it comes to our internal gender issues, right? And that's why they do it. Stuart Dean Knight, author, and you just described exactly why there's a black manosphere, and that's why they do it. It's painful as a man to hear too many men belly aching, and that's exactly why they're doing it. Because everybody's been telling them to shut the hell up and eat this for decades. Everybody's been telling black men, particularly, shut up and eat it for decades. Nothing to see here, right? And that's exactly why you have a black manosphere. That's the point I was trying to make. You have a black manosphere because your sons are like, yeah, I'm over it. Remember, this is why I brought up what I said earlier. We have successful brothers in this space. We have family men in this space. We have degreed men in this space. We have brothers attending some of your most notable HBCUs in this space. We have Ivy League graduates in this space. We have brothers that's living overseas in this space. To call this space the winosphere, right? To call this space the winosphere, that's why this space exists. This space exists exactly for the reason for you calling it the winosphere. And I'm not saying you in particular, Stuart. I'm saying, you know, Mr. Black calling this space the winosphere. You just become alpha enough, you have anything to whine about. I'm glad you actually checked that one. Right? The 15-point plan is, and don't forget about Charles also, right? The Charles Faulkner Initiative. Don't forget about that also, right? Voice the concern, then find a solution. You mean how black men been trying to voice the concern? I don't know, since at least the 70s, maybe the 60s, at least. You mean how they were benign neglected? You mean how, black women were allowed to run out the back door with white women with the, baubles of the civil rights movement? And when the black men realized that, they were being benign, the women were black women were positioned in a way, particularly with concepts like intersectionality. I know it's a more recent term, but concepts like intersectionality that were then weaponized to benign neglect black men and black boys. You mean how black men and black boys have been saying that and articulating that in multiple different ways for decades? And that's them voicing their concern, and it went largely ignored up until now when the system realizes, okay, yeah, too many men, particularly the white men and the young white men and the boys, aren't going along. Too many of them are staying at home in their mom's basements, playing with themselves and playing video games all day, right? So when we say about voice concerns, that's been a thing. And the more it went ignored, the larger the underground swell. And now it's just blew up in everybody's faces. It's going to phase out in the next couple of days. And GC says, glad Z acknowledged that the vast majority of black men aren't watching that pearly that pearly chick and haven't even heard of her. Can't wait until that boring topic phases out. And that's the thing, do I think that Jason makes a point that there might have been a couple of people that saw that video with Just Pearly Things and Nick Fuentes and played it down? Yes. But the vast majority of us were so not paying attention to Just Pearly Things that we didn't even know. And those of us that did, those of us that might have been in the know might not even have clicked it because we don't even know who Nick Fuentes is. You saw a thumbnail with a white dude and Just Pearly Things, and you were like, okay, yeah, I don't even, you know. And so I think what I'm saying is ignoring that is how we kind of get here, because it's painting tens of thousands of people, if not a few 100,000 people that occupy this kind of Black manosphere space. It's saying that we're all on one accord in what protecting Just Pearly Things. I mean, we're literally having debates on channels about this right now, right? And this is just me, kind of spitballing different ideas out, and but it, yeah, of course we weren't paying attention to Just Pearly Things. This would have been an argument in the Black manosphere before Jason covered it if we were following her, right? Oh, and Victor Creed says, bro, you gotta know who these white supremacists are. No, I know who Nick Fuentes is, right? I'm not saying I didn't. I'm saying even the people that might have saw that thumbnail that aren't in the know probably saw this white dude and like, okay, I'm not going. What's this, right? Because Nick Fuentes has been on this type of thing since a teenager, right? And yes, he was at Charlottesville, and he was in DC during January 6th. He's been on this, right? And notice I haven't disagreed with Jason on any of his talk about Nick Fuentes or even Just Pearly Things to a certain extent. I don't know if this young white lady is racist. You know me, Mr. Z. I look at white women sideways anyway, so it wouldn't make me look at her any different. I'll say that. Why would it make you look at her any different, Mr. Z? I just told you why. Because Mr. Z already know what country and what system he lives under. And Victor Creed is right. Victor Creed says, I can dig it, but it should be a red flag if someone like him pops up anywhere for all of us, not just you, bro. Yeah. No, yeah. Right. Oh, Stefan Molyneux. Jesus Christ. Richard Spencer, it's comical, right? But Stefan Molyneux. Y'all remember when there was a couple of brothers kind of regurgitating Stefan Molyneux stuff for a while, right? How did people not see that? Oh boy. Look like he just got done torturing some small hats, we'll say. Look like he just marched some of them into the gas chambers. Right? And GC said Richard Spencer is washed. He's too blatant. He makes this way too inconvenient. It's even though he's not aggressive in his tonality, he's way too blatant. Oh man, this man is way too blatant. Right? Especially the speech when he gave after Charlottesville to the white dudes he was speaking to when the alt right kind of first blew up on the scene when he was at that convention, and we are the people of the sun, and yeah, no, he's way too blatant. Right? Even when Jason Black interviewed him, and he's speaking about power and the power dynamic, I'm like, whoa. So yeah, Richard Spencer, at least Ben Shapiro, he could kind of hide it a little bit. Not really. With the Sutherland shake, all of them, right? Tommy Lauren, all of them kind of playing this one foot in, one foot out on their rhetoric. Barely obscure enough to give other white people plausible deniability. But Richard Spencer said, yeah, F that. I'm just saying it straight out. Right? And that's why I think Richard Spencer is washed. Way too blatant. Way too blatant. You're not giving people any type of plausible deniability. And white women and white men need their plausible deniability for racism. Right? They definitely do. Let's put it this way. One of the closest people to get to that was Steve King, and they kept on giving Steve King passes. This man was on CNN talking about Western society and the fall of. He was on CNN saying this. And they gave him chance after chance to weasel out of it. The man, if he would have just moved just a smidge more to the right, he would have been Richard Spencer. And they gave him chances after chances to clean up the rhetoric to make it just obscure enough. Right? So that's the problem with Richard Spencer. He's too blatant. And so when Jason speaks about that, of course, yeah. I'm not going to argue with another black person about whether a white person is racist or not, or anti-black or not. But then to say that the black manosphere is pretty much, going behind this white woman, and see that in that, yeah. I'd like to direct you to Mr. Z's channel. Right? Like to direct you to Mr. Z's channel. Just snoop through, listen in, listen to Mr. Z's commentary and see Mr. Z ain't. He's not one of these people that's chasing after no white women. Listen to Mr. Z on different people's channels. You'll see Mr. Z is not trying to be validated by no white people, man or woman. Yeah, I could yuck it up with white folks. Yeah, all I could. Yeah, but I know what this is, right? And I'll pause right there, y'all. I just want to kind of get this out. That's why, and I'll pause right there for now. And that's just my little random spitballing commentary. Speaking about Mr. Jason Black. Let's take concern issues with what he's saying, and I think we have to have a real conversation. Somebody mentioned class earlier. Yeah, that conversation needs to happen. Um, in the entrepreneurship class of Black people, and sometimes how they kind of tiptoe into some. This is where we get into like the talented tenth part of the conversation, right? The I know what's best for you part of the conversation, you know, while also saying you're not of my kind, right? In a condescending way, I'm saying, right? So, got to be careful with that a little bit, a lot of bit, a whole lot of bit, you know? So that's all I'll say to that. You know, like I said, I'm gonna continue listening to Jason Black. I think Jason Black has good information, right? I think he has good information. I think the way he presents his information, obviously, people are saying he's on some WWF, WWE type thing is hysterical because he really does present information like that. But and I think even the way he analyzes things, most times it's important that we have someone like Jason Black, right? But the kind of megalomaniac type thing, right? While claiming you don't have an ego, whoa, right? And it's kind of like this scorched earth thing with the Black Manosphere, and let's see if it works. I don't think so, but that's because I'm kind of part of the Black Manosphere. Of course, I would say that, but let's see if it works, right? Stuart D. Knight, author, says you shouldn't feel attacked, Mr. Z. You're not a coon. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. Right. And I understand, and I understand the gripes. That's a conversation we're gonna have to have behind the wall in the Black Manosphere about these things. And quite frankly, it remains to be seen whether there's gonna be some solution to that, right? And how that will look in public to the rest of you, right? But there's gonna be some conversation that needs to be had, right? But let's be clear, like the some of the schisms are gonna be it's there. But also part of the Black Manosphere is the fact that we're not a dictatorship over here. So that it's going to be hard to tell brothers what they can and can't do, particularly someone my age telling a elder that got me by 20 years what they can and can't do, right? So, yeah. So, like I said, I'll pause right here. Y'all like, share, subscribe. And I just want to kind of give this commentary. Um, and I think I'm pretty much done. If y'all see me don't come back with a more cogent, pointed critique by sometime tomorrow, I'm probably not going to cover this again. I'm over it. Right. So Um, like I said, this is not me defending Pearl by any means. Um, yeah, I don't think there's anything, yeah, to defend there. It happened, and what we heard, right? What we saw. But I'm speaking to Mr. Black about the way he delivers his message. Um, and he did say himself to be careful for old Negroes, right? And this is just a friendly tap on the shoulder, right? As a person that's been listening to Jason Black for what are we in over a decade? Yeah, over a decade. Oh yeah, it's been that long, way more than a decade actually. Like I said, since the days of Tommy Sotomayor blog talk, right? So this is a person. Mr. Z is a person. I think that's the one pushback I give Ed. Ed was like, "Ain't nobody listening to Jason more than me." I'm like, I don't know, brother. Maybe I have. We might be. Let's just say it might be equal, right? So, And on that note, I'll end it there. Like I said, it's just a slight pushback. There's no real animosity towards the brother. There's no animosity towards him. My only pushback is this is the Black Manosphere is dead and deceased. Yeah, no, no. Trell, I'm literally closing it out. And Trell, bear with me when you listen to the replay because I you know just kind of spitballing different thoughts and it might not come out cogent and kind of jumping here and there. Yeah. So I'll truly pause right here. Y'all like, share, subscribe. Go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content, and thank y'all for coming in anyway. I was supposed to have been in this out a long time. Yeah, and so y'all. I'll end it right here. Like I said, I'm gonna continue to listen to Jason. I think what this brother brings is important. I get why he might not want to be part of the Manosphere. Some brothers just don't play well with others. That's cool. Um, and yeah, you know, I get it, right? So, and remember, Mr. Z is in a relationship, and I earn above average money and above median money in America. Um, I'm not gonna do with Jessica X was doing it. Like for my age, no, I earn more than men, right? I'm earning more than men in America, not just black men, but men. And y'all never really hear me say that type of stuff because guess why? It don't really mean anything. Tell you the truth. If you ain't balling, then you only 1 month away from the struggle. Anybody tell you different is a liar. All right. For real. Especially if you ain't been making money long enough to have like a real nice savings account, right? Some money in your savings. It's you literally always one emergency away from looking at your savings account like, God damn, right? So, I'm just leaving it there for y'all. Okay, so let's do our exit, our excuse me, our outro for real this time. I'm gonna pause right here. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content. On this one, I can't even say so y'all don't sound like Jason Black because I think Jason Black is pretty damn knowledgeable. So y'all could just check out other non-Manosphere content just so you could be knowledgeable too. Right? So yeah, and we'll just end it out there. And y'all have a great rest of y'all night. Mr. Z out. All right, everybody.